oh, finally a 3DS for me. Somebody with massive hands, just the biggest hands. Just, oh my God, look how big my fucking hands are. Back in 2012, when I was watching video reviews of the 3DS XL, that was all I would hear people say is, man, I love the 3DS, but like, I got big hands. And, you know, like, it gets a little small. So the 3DS XL is great for me. I just remember a lot of people saying, I got big hands, like exactly like that. I got big hands, so I need a bigger 3DS. I'm like, what are you trying to say to me? That you need big gloves too? The Nintendo 3DS XL. My God. It's still pretty shocking to me, like, how big this thing looks when you open it up. It almost looks like jumbo size because the screen is so big compared to, like, you know, the outside rim of it. You compare it to the original 3DS and, like, yeah, like, it just seems, like, so blown up. But that's a good thing because the 3DS XL was, like, one of the more necessary revisions in my opinion. I'm really happy that I picked this up to replace my original 3DS, but it didn't initially seem like that when this was first rumored to be coming out, and it actually finally was formally announced. So back in 2012, like, I remember people were talking nonstop about how, oh my God, the 3DS needs a damn redesign. Why would you say that? You don't like layer cake? The original 3DS definitely has a lot of original DS energy to it. It's not bad, but yeah, this is just a funny looking dude. And then of course, there was the whole elephant in the room, the lack of a second stick. People were going nuts about that at the time. The fact that the PlayStation Vita had dual analog sticks, and the fact that Nintendo pretty much admitted defeat by announcing the Circle Pad Pro pretty much made it so then everybody was like, man, we need a 3DS with a second analog stick. Of course, you know, that brings up other problems. The fact that, like, okay, so one revision in, you immediately introduce a second analog stick. And that immediately, like, makes the user base a little weird here. So, like, okay, so some of your users have a second analog stick, others might not. So either way, you're gonna have to design your games around the concept that you may not have a second analog stick. So it's just like, either way, like, the 3DS was kind of f***ed in this regard. But I remember people were saying, like, I want, like, the DS Lite equivalent to a 3DS redesign, a Nintendo 3DS Lite. Something a little sleeker, something a little slimmer, something sexier, and white. People really like the white color of the Wii and DS Lite and the DSi in white and all of this junk. So Nintendo answered that request with the exact opposite. It's bigger and it's Jolly Rancher red. Live with it. The 3DS XL, I wasn't expecting at the time, which is strange because, you know, we already got the DSi XL. But the DSi XL felt more like, you know, a DSi for the elderly. Kind of just like a weird little experiment. However, if you actually listen to, like, people who bought a DSi XL, they will tell you, man, that thing was awesome. The bigger screens genuinely makes it way easier to enjoy all of your DS games. And even the fat-ass fountain pen stylus it came with, I mean, like, that was easier to use than, like, one of these little dingleberries. And especially with 3DS games being, like, more graphically intense, more cinematic than DS games, with technology kind of moving to bigger screens overall, like a lot of the smartphones in 2012 were moving towards bigger displays, a 3DS XL just made sense. Especially considering, like, me personally, I wasn't really bringing my 3DS a lot of places. It was more of a handheld console than, like, a portable on-the-go console, you know? Like, I'd play it when I was lounging around in bed or on the couch or whatever at home. But, yeah, I can probably name the amount of times I've left the house with my 3DS on, like, I don't know, like, yeah, all my fingers. So it being bigger really isn't much of a problem. But this was rumored and leaked in such a bizarre way. So right before E3 2012, the Japanese publication Nikkei leaked a report that a 3DS XL was coming alongside Wii U pricing info. And Nintendo pretty much responded to it and said, some of that info is inaccurate. Okay. For some reason, I took that as like, oh, it's bullshit. But like, no, like 2 weeks later, they announced a 3DS XL. They announced it in like a Nintendo Direct after E3 2012, which was stupid to me because E3 2012 was like, this was like the make it or break it year for Nintendo. They really had to bring their big guns to this show. And it seemed like they were doing that. They had 3 separate presentations during E3. They had a pre-E3 2012 Nintendo Direct, and then they had a full-on press conference that mainly focused on Wii U, and then they had a Nintendo 3DS software showcase presentation, which was an entirely separate live press conference. None of it had adequate info during it. It was all just a giant waste of time. But then, 2 weeks after E3, Nintendo hosts a Nintendo Direct, and the first thing they announce is a brand new 3DS model. I'm just like, why? You could have made this E3 so magical. They also announced that Bandai Namco was developing Smash Brothers. They had all this stuff like, oh yeah, New Super Mario Bros. 2 is getting DLC, Fire Emblem Awakening, Professor Layton, Kirby's Dream Collection, Pikmin 2, all this random stuff that they could have just filled out their E3 lineup with, but no. Instead, they focused on fucking Batman Arkham City Armored Edition at their E3 2012 press conference. Why? But yeah, they announced the 3DS XL a couple weeks after it got leaked, and they kind of partially denied it. It was announced in red and blue colors and was coming out in August of 2012, right alongside New Super Mario Bros. 2 for a clean $200. Now, me personally, I had to wait until like maybe May or June of 2013. It's pretty crazy now that I think about it. I think I saved up like enough allowance at that time to afford a 3DS XL. And then I used all my birthday money and more savings like a month later to get a Wii U Deluxe set. So in one fell swoop, I got a 3DS XL and a Wii U at the same time. To be honest, I don't really think I should have spent all my money on a 3DS XL because that was kind of pointless. I would consider this an upgrade, but it's also an unnecessary upgrade. You know, it does everything a regular 3DS does. There are a couple pros, but they're pretty minor overall. But honestly, I'd say there's a fair amount of cons. The 3DS XL feels a lot cheaper than an original 3DS. As dumb as this thing looks, it at least feels fairly premium. With the 3DS XL, it just kind of feels like you can tell where they decided to cost cut. Even somewhere as simple as the 3D slider. On the original 3DS, it had a light, whereas on the 3DS XL, it's like chiseled into the plastic, which also just kind of feels a little cheaper. I do prefer it though, because like it's not this glossy, just fingerprint magnet, just garbage. It's something where this is gonna look fine most of the time, you know? You're not gonna have to worry about getting any smudges on this thing. But yeah, it definitely felt like they wanted to cost cut with this one a lot more than the original 3DS. Even down to the unboxing experience. So they put this in a smaller box, which is good, but the original 3DS came with all different kinds of little trinkets. The box just feels a lot more premium here. You know, you open up the flap and you reveal all this huge, just massive, look at this. This is a goddamn novel. And all this stuff isn't in the package itself, but you know, you got the charging dock for the 3DS, which, you know, was unnecessary, but it's just like, all right, that's kind of cool. I mean, none of this stuff is necessary whatsoever, but you know, the 3DS just felt like a more premium product. Comparative to the 3DS XL, pretty much the way this was packaged was, you know, you open it up like this, and that's it. The AR cards is just in this little baggie. They have all the stuff there, and then the 3DS XL and the charger just kind of was stuck in this cardboard, and that was literally it. This is literally stuff that doesn't matter, but it makes my point that this definitely feels like they were cutting costs a bit more than with the original model. So then what are the pros of this thing outside of the bigger size? Well, it has a bigger battery. Yeah, no shit. The original 3DS had a notoriously pretty lame battery life, so the 3DS XL was advertised as having a larger battery. It lasted like 30 minutes longer. Came with a bigger SD card preloaded in here. 4 gigs instead of 2. Is bigger. Yeah, this is kind of like a revision, but it isn't. It's kind of like an alternate version of the 3DS to buy if you want a bigger 3DS, or you can get the original sized one, you know, make your choice. But I think a lot of the changes they made on this one are genuine improvements from the original 3DS. For one, the stylus placement. So on the original 3DS, It's up here. This was so lame. It just made me not want to use the stylus. I was just like, yeah, I'll just use my finger. Who cares? Like whenever I have to take the stylus out, it feels like I'm like, I don't know, taking out a pocket watch or something that's kind of in an awkward back pocket. I have to stop and kind of look around and grab it and unsheath it. And like, all right, there it is. Guess what? Because the original 3DS is like oddly premium for some reason. They make the stylus telescopic. So then it's just like, oh, what? Then I have to do that. And then I can use it. 3DS XL on the right side of the handheld. Oh, hot dog. Of course, if you're left-handed, you know, that kind of sucks. But at the very least, it's in a place that's like convenient for some people. I don't think the original 3DS's stylus placement was convenient for anybody. I think Nintendo mainly puts the stylus where it makes sense to, considering like the internals of the system, which is why like the 3DS XL is like the only 3DS model with it on the side like this. Like all the other models have it in like weird ass places. Then this one's a big boy. I mean, okay, so look at these 3 buttons here. Look at them there. On the original 3DS, it's like you're killing a bug underneath a tissue. On here, they are actual buttons, which is a huge upgrade in my opinion. Most of the other changes are pretty much just kind of moving things around and whatnot. Nothing too special, but just with these minor changes, I think it made the 3DS XL a worthy upgrade, even if it wasn't necessarily meant to be an upgrade, more so an alternate option. But I will tell you this, what was definitely upgraded with the 3DS XL were the special colors and special editions and all of that stuff. There was so much good stuff released with the 3DS XL. I mean, Pikachu Nipple Edition? My favorite will always be the Zelda 3DS XL, the one that released alongside A Link Between Worlds. Like, pure gold, like, it looks beautiful. The bottom of it has, like, the dark Triforce that represents Lorule from the game. Like, I absolutely love it. And at the time, you know, popping this open and transferring everything from the original 3DS to the 3DS XL, it made for a massive upgrade. Just playing through a game like Super Mario 3D Land again with these bigger screens, it just made the game feel so much more legitimate, so much more substantial. It's like the game actually fucking mattered now because like, damn, like, whatever, these are actual screens. And while the 3DS XL isn't like the definitive 3DS model, I think that definitely goes to the new 3DS XL. This kind of represents like one of my favorite eras of the 3DS. You know, the 3DS XL was the definitive 3DS model during the 3DS's heyday, you know, 2012 to like 2014, 2015. By the time the new 3DS and new 3DS XL took over, the 3DS kind of entered like, you know, it's twilight years. You know, it still had a good amount of time left in it, but at the same time, like, the amount of quality software, the amount of games that were coming out for it that were like, oh my god, these are some heavy hitters, definitely kind of lowered. For the most part, we kind of got a lot of filler titles, a lot of spin-offs in like 2015, 2016 for the 3DS. I look back at 2013, and that was like the year of the 3DS. I mean, like, we got Fire Emblem Awakening, Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, Donkey Kong Country Returns 3D, Lego City Undercover The Chase Begins, Animal Crossing New Leaf, Mario and Luigi Dream Team, Pokemon X and Y, Zelda Link Between Worlds, and of course, Mario Party Island Tour. And I already know I'm missing some things there. Like, this was an insane year for the handheld. And the 3DS XL was the definitive 3DS throughout that all. The 3DS XL was a great upgrade because like it just felt like you had room to breathe on this device. Even if you didn't have just the biggest fucking hands of all time, it just felt much more comfortable to hold this and play on this in comparison to an original 3DS. I do partially kind of regret buying it back in the day because it's like, Jesus, Scott, like you only have so much money as a kid. Why the hell are you spending it on a superfluous 3DS upgrade? But to be perfectly honest, I'm not sure how much of the 3DS I would be playing in 2013 and 2014 if I didn't upgrade to the 3DS XL. This genuinely made things so much more comfortable for me. But you know what would make it even more comfortable? This was a joke. I love that like one of the main things about the 3DS XL that people question was the fact that like, oh, it doesn't have a second stick. And Nintendo just announced like, yeah, we're making a Circle Pad Pro for the 3DS as well. I remember the Circle Pad Pro for the original 3DS, that was only available at GameStop, whereas the Circle Pad Pro for the 3DS XL was only available on like Nintendo's online store, mainly because like, who bought this. Another criticism I remember was the color choice. You know, the 3DS XL launched with red and blue, but I think in person, like, these are some really nice colors. I think at the time I remember hearing a lot of people wanting very, very basic colors. It was either like, hey, I want just basic black or I want basic white or something like that. Strangely enough, in North America, we never really got like a fully white original 3DS or 3DS XL. Like, we never got that, and I don't know why. I remember like a few months later, they launched a black 3DS XL, which looked fine, but you know, like, honestly, at this point in my life, I'm down for a little bit of color. Back in the day, I was like, no, I need monochrome. Now I'm just like, f it, man. I mean, like, let's get a nice, fun color. Let's get red, let's get blue. But man, like I said, the special editions, this is where it's at. I love 3DS XL special editions. So, you know, some of these aren't necessarily my favorite. I'm looking at you, you little bastard. The retro NES 3DS XL, I mean, it's just kind of dumb. I think it's just like, I would have preferred if this console design was on the front instead of just a damn JPEG of an NES controller. I mean, I look back at the NES edition of like the Game Boy Advance SP and that thing looks incredible. This thing is just kind of stupid, but I do kind of like it. This launched alongside Ultimate NES Remix, and the Yoshi Edition one, I actually picked this up at a used game store, you know, complete in box, and I just kind of felt like, damn, I need to get this. For the sole reason, and you know, alright, I've told this story before, but you know, you know me. Do I look like I'm gonna stop myself from telling the same story for the 11th time? Back in 2013, I dicked around and I wanted to make like a mock-up of a 3DS XL box, like special edition for Yoshi's New Island, and I posted that on like vgboxart.com, and that fan art got used for like listings of this 3DS XL, which was kind of funny. So just for my oddball 15 minutes of fame back in the day, I wanted to I wanted to pick this up as just a memento of that whole moment. I always kind of find that the 3DS XL special editions, they do these in weird ways where like, yeah, this is only gonna line up if the 3DS is closed, but then when you're actually holding the 3DS, you know, Yoshi's gonna be upside down. So it's just kind of strange. I'm kind of like, you know, I mean, whatever. I mean, it's still a nice little design, but yeah, I mean, I prefer this one right here because this works in any orientation. It's of course based on A Link Between Worlds, and I already talked about this one. Oh God, it's so freaky cool. I love this one. It's so gold, it's literally blinding. So that is the 3DS XL. Not a ton about this one, but I just have a lot of memories about it, considering like this is kind of the 3DS from my favorite era of that handheld's lifespan. It's very much a 3DS, but bigger. But they decided to change a few things that were never the greatest about the original 3DS. Very minor things, but it all made for a far better experience. And even though the new 3DS and new 3DS XL are definitely the definitive 3DSs, honestly, the 3DS XL, the original one, may be the one that I just look back at with the most fondness. And partially it's because of irony. Like, what the f am I looking at?